There has always been something oddly enticing about the end of the world and what comes afterwards for a lot of people. By exploring what the depths of humanity will sink to when up against the wall, the genre has been successful on the big screen for years. However, there's arguably just as big a market for the best post-apocalyptic games, those that allow you to live through the grime and the struggle of just living. They're in higher demand than ever, with plenty of games showcased at gaming conventions revolving around the end of days, including the likes of The Last of Us 2, Biomutant, and plenty more. While those titles are a little ways off, we still have a huge range of the best post-apocalyptic games that you can immerse yourself in the squalor of right now. From twisted and destitute playgrounds to more human and introspective affairs, there's no shortage of options for those who are more morbidly minded. For the sake of variety, and also not having 5 Fallout games in one list, we're limiting entries to just one post-apocalyptic game per franchise. We're also trying to avoid adding too many zombie games, as we've already had a super excellent list just for that. We're also excluding regional apocalypses as seen in The Division, and going full fat end of days. Biblical. Number 10. Frostpunk. When a global catastrophe sends the world into a never-ending winter, you must guide one of the last remaining vestiges of humanity to warmth. This entails building a town around a gigantic generator and also trying your best to keep your people happy, despite the fact that they should be grateful just to be alive. Seriously, they do love a good whinge in Frostpunk. Primarily a management sim, Frostpunk constantly makes you answer its toughest questions. Do you take a hardline approach to laws and enact a dictatorship, or do you try to be more liberal and optimistic? Both choices will alienate someone in your camp, so it's up to you to make them see the light. It's a tricky balancing act in Frostpunk, and one that you will probably lose sleep over, which is what the best post-apocalyptic games should do. Number 9. Days Gone. Some of you are likely spitting your monster out at the screen with the realization that Days Gone places an hour list over something like Death Stranding. That's down to how much more easily accessible and gratifying Days Gone is than Kojima's Solemn Sojourn, as well as the fact that Days Gone is just a damn solid game in its own right. Derided unfairly by many at release, Days Gone has a lot of rough edges, but if you stick with it, you will grow to love the irresponsibly named Deacon St. John, as well as the hair-raising spectacle of taking on hordes of freakers and all of the interesting ideas that Days Gone brings to the table. It's been supported admirably well by Bend ever since release, so give Days Gone a chance if you haven't yet. 8. The Long Dark. When a geomagnetic disaster crashes your plane in the Canadian wilderness, you must scrape by one day at a time and just try to survive. A quieter post-apocalyptic game compared to many of its peers, The Long Dark is designed to be an introspective and patient experience, one that rewards those who take the time to get lost within it. With limited supplies to be found out in the tundra, coming across any kind of resources is like a birthday present in The Long Dark. You'll celebrate finding a small candy bar like you've just won the lottery, as it gives you more time to breathe in the gorgeous world. The Long Dark is relatively low on action, though encounters with bears and wolves are always heart-pumping affairs. If you like rabbits though, you should probably avoid this one. 7. Wasteland 2. Anyone who's been left jaded by the action route that the Fallout franchise went since Bethesda took over need look no further than Wasteland 2. Developed by the producer behind the original Fallout game, Wasteland 2 takes the post-apocalypse back to its CRPG roots to great effect. Just like its cousin, your decisions in Wasteland 2 can lead to long-term consequences, meaning that guilt trips are almost certainly on the way. With an impressive depth of customization to dive into, Wasteland 2 is the perfect way to craft the post-apocalypse you see fit, faults and all. Featuring dozens upon dozens of hours of gameplay, the second entry in the series is a decent entree until Wasteland 3 drops sometime later this year. 6. Metro: Last Light. The Metro series of post-apocalyptic games have always been a cult favourite FPS. While the first game, 2033, was based on the Dmitry Glukhovsky novel, Last Light deviates away to craft its own story. You play again as Artem, who is part of the underground network of survivors following a nuclear apocalypse. You'll come across your fair share of enemies, some human, some not so much, and some completely unlike anything you've seen before. Minimalist in its nature, Last Light doesn't overload the player with information or hold their hand at all. It is a difficult FPS featuring different ways to approach situations, as well as the ability to customize your weapons and change the ending depending on your actions in the game. A sequel, Metro Exodus, was released in 2019 to acclaim, and with the redo version of Last Light often being bundled with 2033 at a cheap price, you have no excuse not to check out this brilliant series. 5. Telltale's The Walking Dead. If we're talking about a particular season of Telltale's The Walking Dead, its first season has to be the premiere, though its fourth season is not that far behind in terms of pushing the gameplay forward. When the franchise started, it allowed players greater freedom in exploration and the all-important difficult decisions having genuine weight because of the connection to the characters. Lee Everett is not just one of the best protagonists in a post-apocalyptic game, he's one of the best overall. A man with inner turmoil and a conscience, Lee's job is to keep a young girl by the name of Clementine safe as they make their way to any sign of hope they can in a walker-infested America. While it may be light on gameplay for some, the choices you make in The Walking Dead, and the game as a whole, will stick with you for a long time. 4. Gears of War 3. Gears of War 3 didn't necessarily reinvent the wheel for the Gears franchise, though it never arguably needed to. The blueprint of the first two games, including the unusual but somehow excellent reloading mechanic, was followed for the third installment, but with some refinements to make the action and chainsawing feel more fluid than ever. Following the events of the second game, Gears of War 3 pits you once again as Marcus Phoenix, the manliest man in all of gaming. Humanity is on the brink of extinction after civilization had effectively been wiped out by the Locust, so it's up to you to take the fight to them one last time. Considering the amount of testosterone in Gears of War 3, it's a surprisingly grim and emotional ride that's the pillar of the Xbox brand for good reason. 3. Horizon Zero Dawn. Compared to the rest of the best post-apocalyptic games on this list, Horizon Zero Dawn is positively vibrant. Bursting with colour and life, you play as Aloy in a world where humans are put back in their place on the food chain. Robot animals roam the lands, and it is clear something terrible has happened to the Earth, evidenced by the remnants of a long-gone and advanced civilization. An open-world game with a huge emphasis on exploration, Horizon Zero Dawn offers players the chance to tame robots or hunt them down wherever they see fit. There's a fantastic storyline to unravel the deeper into Horizon you travel, though you couldn't be blamed if you just decide to relax atop a tall lake for a while and gaze upon the beautiful, Horizon. 2. The Last of Us. If you want a post-apocalyptic game that doesn't shy away from showing humanity in its ugliest form, The Last of Us is the game for you. When a parasitic infection turns most of the world into zombie-like creatures, the final remnants of civilization spend their morbid days without much hope for the future. That is, of course, until Ellie comes along. You play as Joel, a man hardened by grief, as you protect Ellie during a trek across America to deliver her to a movement. The gameplay revels in the filth of the apocalypse, giving you things like bricks to dispatch your enemies. There's no magic ammo catch in The Last of Us. An emotional and consistently engaging time, The Last of Us is storytelling and character building in gaming at its very best. Number 1. Fallout New Vegas. Often hailed as the best modern Fallout game, New Vegas embraces the first-person ARPG style that Bethesda brought to the series for Fallout 3, while also being sure to maintain the Obsidian sense of building a world begging to be explored and characters worth caring about. Play Fallout 4 and New Vegas side by side and you will notice some disappointing streamlining in the former. When you're left for dead out in the Vegas desert, you must seek revenge, or, failing that, go and complete the 45,000 side quests and distractions that New Vegas has to offer, which include lending a helping hand to an Elvis impersonator or just frittering all of your money away at the casino. Fallout fans have been begging Bethesda to convince Obsidian to return for another game, and it's really not hard to see why when even bashing the heads in of your millionth Cazador. And that rounds out our top 10 list of the best post-apocalyptic video games out there to play right now. So, did you like the list? Did you agree? Did you disagree? Are there anything that you would have put in that we missed out? Anything you would have swapped around in the list? let us know in the comments down below, but don't get offensive, because I'm a left-wing snowflake boy, and sensitive to all sorts of mean words. So, until the next video, please consider subscribing to the Cultured Vultures YouTube channel, and until then, caw-caw!